네, 여러분 안녕하십니까?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. 2021 Jeju Forum. I am Choi Song-hee, the MC of the session titled Africa's Digital Innovation in Post-COVID-19 Era. We're going to start the session. Before we start the session, I would like to invite Mr. Yonggi, the president of the Korea Africa Foundation, for opening remarks. Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to meet with you.
Zaid, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union, Mr. Kyung-suk Ko, Director General of the African and Middle Eastern Affairs Bureau of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea, Her Excellency Yasmin Amri Swed, Ambassador of the Embassy of Rwanda to the Republic of Korea, and His Excellency Ali Mohamed Magashi, Ambassador of the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Republic of Korea, and distinguished guests from Korea, Africa, and around the world who are attending this seminar. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this session titled Africa's Digital Innovation in Post-COVID-19 Era. Esteemed guests and participants, in the fourth industrial revolution, the African continent is facing a turning point in new development. Although Africa's existing industry-based infrastructure is weak, the introduction and utilization of digital technology is becoming more active and prevalent. As the economy and business environments change, digital innovation provides new opportunities for African countries and has emerged as a major challenge to the African continent. Given that digital transformation such as fintech, mobile banking, etc., is becoming accelerated and widespread, consequent to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the IMF report, Africa's internet penetration in the sub-Saharan Africa has grown tenfold since the early 2000s, as opposed to a mere threefold in the rest of the world. The Brookings Institute also reports that approximately 50% of global mobile money circulating in mobile finance is the presence in the African continent. And Africa will see the fastest growth in mobile finance through 2025. However, concerns over cybersecurity, digital governance, and data privacy protection are growing along with the rapid development of such brilliant digital technologies. The African Union's digital transformation strategy for 2020 to 2030 presents its policy directions for each African country's regulations and systems to harmonize the country's divergence of different policy orientations. In addition, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, AFCFTA, which has been implemented across the African continent since January 2021, this year, calls for streamlining the industry and commodity circulation through digital innovation. I am confident that digital innovation will play a key role in promoting active intra-trade initiatives within the African continent. Through today's seminar, I hope that the discussion on digital innovation would be meaningful not only to revitalize the African economy, but also to share the digital experience and environment between Korea and Africa, all to promote mutual development. Once again, I greatly appreciate your attendance in this session and would like to thank our esteemed speakers for sharing their insights. Thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you for your remarks. Next, we have Ko Kyung-suk, Director General of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He will deliver welcoming remarks. He is not attending in person. He is connected online.
Africa, good afternoon in Korea. Your Excellency Amani Abu Jahid, African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, and Your Excellency Ambassador Yonggi, President of the Korea-Africa Foundation, and my dear friends, ambassadors of African countries to Korea in Jeju Island, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you joining us both on and offline to the Korea-Africa Foundation session at the 2021 Jeju Forum entitled Africa's Digital Innovation in the Post-COVID-19 Era. Jeju Forum is one of the most prestigious regional multilateral dialogues for promoting peace and prosperity in Asia. I would like to thank Ambassador Yonggi and his team for taking part in the forum to organize this meaningful session with a timely subject of discussion in this pandemic era. Indeed, COVID-19 has greatly impacted our lives. At the moment in time, no one can predict when the pandemic will come to an end. Yet one thing for sure is that COVID-19 has expedited the digital transition across the globe. My participation online together with the AU Commissioner and the other participants evidently demonstrates this paradigm shift. In responding to this, Korea announced in July 2020 so-called Digital New Deal to prepare for the digital transformation in the near future. More than $20 billion will be invested in key ICT areas such as database, 5G network, education, and contactless industries. When it comes to digital innovation, we all know that Africa is leading the world. It is no exaggeration to say that Kenya's world's first mobile phone-based money transfer service, M-Pesa, has started the ICT revolution in Africa. In the area of financial technology, simply speaking, Kenya is more advanced than Korea. Half of the world's mobile money users are now from Africa. Rwanda's world's first national-scale drone delivery services is also inspiring many countries to adopt such a system. The company Zipline that started this service is recognized as one of the best inventions of 2018 by the Time magazine. A Cameroonian startup, Promagrix, AI-based plant care platform, is also greatly helping farmers to combat crop disease in a timely manner and has expanded to many African countries, including Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Senegal. As an IT powerhouse, Korea looks forward to enhancing cooperation with Africa in bringing about digital innovation. Our development cooperation with Africa is increasing, but it doesn't stop there. More and more Korean companies are entering African markets. Samsung and LG are already popular electronic household brands in Africa. KT Corporation, one of the largest Korea telecom companies, greatly contributed to building the ICT network in Rwanda and Gabon. Startups are also creating new opportunities. Tela, a Korea-based English mobile tutoring service, hired young Ugandans as English tutors via internet, and it has proved to be a big hit among Koreans who want to improve their English. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my wish to see many more Korean startups go to Africa and write success stories like the company Zipline in the near future. I hope that the Korea Africa Foundation plays an important role in boosting digital entrepreneurship, enhancing the connection between Korea and Africa. Last but not least, the Korean government is preparing to hold the 5th Korea Africa Forum this year in Seoul. Since 2006, the forum has played an instrumental role in enhancing partnership between Korea and Africa. We are now working in close consultation with the African Union, our co-host, to determine the date, agenda, and to draft the final document. I believe that today's discussion will help to set the tone in identifying specific areas of digital cooperation between Korea and Africa, which can be reflected in the final document to be adopted at the upcoming forum in the latter half of this year. Therefore, I look forward to any valuable ideas and insights out of today's discussion. I wish all of us a good meeting. Thank you very much.
감사합니다.
Thank you. I will introduce moderator for today's session, Lee-Jin-sang, professor. He is teaching Economics, International Development and Cooperation, and he is also director of the Institute of International Development and Cooperation, and he taught economics, and also he taught in Korean universities. He worked in Britain, Ethiopia, and Korea. He had been teaching for over 25 years, and he also wrote various researches and studies. And also, he is working as an advisor for the ministry, and he is interested in economics, international development, and in economics. In Glasgow University, he studied economics, and also he got PhD in development economics from the University of Strathclyde, UK. Professor Lee-Jin-sang, please.
Do you hear me? Good afternoon. Thank you very much, MC, for your kind introduction. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this meaningful session as a moderator. I would like to thank the organizer and all the staff who prepared for the session. In this session, we have one presenter and two panelists. We have about 50 minutes in total, but due to COVID-19, it will not be easy to ask questions from the floor, but the session is being aired through YouTube, so if you have questions or comments, please upload them on YouTube, then we will consider them and share them with the presenter and panelists. First of all, I would like to introduce the presenters today. From Global Policy House, we have Mrs. Michal Chibunga, the CEO of Global Policy House. Topic of the presentation is digital innovation, the key role of digital innovation in African free trade area. Before that presentation, we have keynote speech. Sorry, my misunderstanding. First of all, I would like to introduce the keynote speaker. Amani Abu Zaid, from the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy from the African Union Commission.
Mr. President of the Korea-Africa Foundation, distinguished participants and representatives from organizations and institutions, let me first express my honor and pleasure to join you today to share a few ideas, but mostly to thank the people and the government of Jeju for hosting this important forum. Dear all, we know that we have been going through, all of us across the world, very special times and very challenging times as well. The COVID-19 has tested our lifestyle, has tested the technology, has tested also our health systems, education systems, science and technology, and so many other things. But mostly, we can say that COVID-19 demonstrated again and again how important digitalization is for the way we connect, the way we learn, the way even we get treated, and the way we work. And now we do consider the digital and digitalization more of a way of life. It's becoming a very important infrastructure. As a matter of fact, as many would say, digitalization is the infrastructure of the 21st century. This comes at also an important time in the life and the work that we are doing, the African Union is doing in Africa. Because in 2020, as a continent, we did approve a digital transformation strategy for the whole continent, meaning for all countries. We are cognizant, of course, of the fact that maybe some African countries are not necessarily all at the same level of development when it comes to digitalization. Nevertheless, it is important for us as a continent to move together towards a common goal, a common direction, using this fantastic technology that is being put to our use and to our benefit when used well. It is also it's also important that in 2021, earlier this year in January, the African Free Trade Area has been operationalized, and the first transaction took place on the 4th of January 2021. As you know, Africa has charted for itself and operated a free trade area, probably the largest in the world. We're talking about 1.3 billion people and $3 trillion in terms of GDP. And it is, again, one of the major, or what we call flagship projects of the African continent to benefit from, which is, the African Free Trade Area. Now, again, the African Free Trade Area provides us with an opportunity to also put in use this fantastic technology, which is, all the digital means, to fast track and to implement, operationalize the free trade area, increase and accelerate the inter-Africa and inter-Africa transactions using this technology. So, as I said, at the African Union Commission, we undertook a number of initiatives, one of which was the digital transformation, and the second one is operationalize the African Free Trade Area, but also we are working together with all our member states, all the African countries, to speed up the development of digital society and economy in Africa and establish an Africa digital single market, again, to go together in that spirit of unity and of one Africa and one free trade area, so also a single digital market. This includes, the development of all sectoral digital strategies in health, in education, agriculture, e-commerce, postal services, as well as development of the Continental Data Policy Framework to create a common Africa data space, and the digital ID as well, which is interoperable across the continent, and establishment of harmonized regional and continental digital ID systems to create an enabling environment to facilitate the development of Africa's digital single market. Now, why is this, or could this be important to the relationship between Korea and Africa? As you know, Africa is made up of 55 countries, and our purpose at the African Union is to create this unity in Africa and create this mega space, this large market with harmonized policies, so which provides, an economy of scale for investors, for relations. It facilitates, the work with the continent, because instead of having 55 policies or 55 regulations, there would be one harmonized one, and also, as I said, a huge market that is beneficial both to the market itself, to us African, but also for those who are willing and would welcome or would like to invest and work with Africa. This, is part of more initiatives in that direction, also to enable, the digitalization. One of them is electricity, which is necessary for digitalization. And again, we launched earlier this month a single African electricity market. Again, in that direction of creating a large space for electricity projects and harmonizing the policies, regulations, and enabling and fast-tracking the implementation of the many projects in that direction. Mr. President, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I do not wish to be long, but what I would like to say is that Africa is taking long strides and bold actions in making use of the opportunities, but also challenging the times which we are going through, to make sure that we provide a more prosperous and peaceful space for all Africans and for all people living in Africa. And I'm saying this because I wanted also to recognize the importance of women when it comes to digitalization. And we want to make sure that women have their fair share when it comes to the development of their skills, digital skills, of owning equipments or products that enable them to use digital means, and also to train them in so many ways across the value chain, not just as users of this technology, but also as producers of the technology, of apps and softwares and so many other aspects of digitalization in which they can use their creativity and their energy as well. I know that the topic is one that is very important, and it's important because of, not only because of the times that we are living, but it's the way of the future. Having said that, knowing that the digitalization opens up so many doors and provides so many opportunities, it is important also that there are safeguards to be taken. There are issues to look into to make sure that while we are using the technology, we are also making sure that it's trustworthy, that it's safe for our children, for ourselves. So cybersecurity is an important component of our strategy in Africa, and that is why we do have an African Convention on cybersecurity, on data protection, to make sure, again, that while we enjoy the benefits of digital and digitalization, we at the same time are limiting and or eliminating threats or dangers, and to let and allow people to enjoy a safe and secure digital space. I do look forward to hear from all of you, and I'm one of those who believe in technology, who believe in breakthroughs, who believe in harnessing the benefits of digital transformation in all sectors. And we do have, as I said, a large number of projects per sector as well to digitalize these sectors across the continent. And I'm also very happy that across Africa, despite so many issues that we do have in our countries, still there are so many beautiful success stories to be told, and breakthroughs to be emulated and to learn from. I do look forward to an interesting, interactive, enriching forum. I'm sure you do as well. I wish you then fruitful discussions, and hope that these discussions would also lead to specific recommendations that we can use to advance the relations between Korea and Africa, not only in digital, but maybe in other areas as well. And it would be, again, my pleasure to maybe work on these recommendations and work with all participants here to see how much of these we can do together. And I wish you a very successful forum.
Her Excellency Amani Abu Zaid, I think she commented why the digital transformations are so important for the future of African continent, and then the importance of partnership between Korea and then Africa. Shall I move on to the main session? Maybe we can ask Michelle Chibunga, who is CEO of Global Policy House. She will be presenting about the digital innovation and its key role for benefiting AFCFTA. Yeah, Michelle Chibunga, please. Are you with us?
Thank you so much. Hear me all right? I will just share my screen to begin with. 1 second.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really want to take firstly the opportunity to thank the President, the people of Jeju, and all the distinguished guests that are present with us today. It is a real pleasure and a real honor to be with you. And I would like to thank Madam Said as well for her excellent opening remarks and keynote, which really will pick up quite a lot of the things I have to present with you today. So it is a real pleasure. It's nice to join you. I'm actually joining you from Dubai today, even though the Global Policy House is really based in the United Kingdom, and we focus on digital innovation and emerging technologies provision, working across the world and supporting emerging markets around digitalization and digital transformation. A real honor to have you. Today, I want to just cover a little bit more around digital innovation and what digital innovation actually means, especially in regards to the AFCFTA, the Continental Free Trade Area, that we've heard that has been covered a little bit earlier on. It is such an exciting time for Africa and generally for the world, even despite the challenges I think we've had with COVID. So what does this actually mean in terms of the CFTA, that we believe is being, will really be powered by technology and emerging technologies? Obviously, this is a very transformational agenda, for Africa as a whole. And we're really shifting with the Agenda 2063, where we are trying to create that a single market, a single market that will create massive opportunities, growth opportunities, and access to that intra-continental trade activity to happen. It is very exciting because, again, we're going to be encouraging that free movement of goods, people, and services across African nations, but also opening up the doors for Africa to operate and do business with the rest of the world, including in Korea, which is very, very exciting. I think that relationship is absolutely fundamental to the growth and the future of Africa. We have, growing population across the continent of Africa, with expected about 2.5 billion people by 2050. So it's a very a growing, fast-paced, dynamic continent with massive potentials for intra-regional African trade, opportunities to actually grow very prominent sectors, including healthcare, education, trade, business, manufacturing. So it is a very, very exciting time. But at the same time, we're also starting to see an emergence of using, cutting edge technology, which is really helping to shift the paradigm a little bit. So we're moving away from the challenges that we had in the past, where we don't really have solutions to address problems in crisis, problems in pandemics. And we are starting to see that technology is playing a critical role, and our company is starting to actually explore the usage of data and data-driven technologies to enable solutions to be produced and to enable solutions to support the continent as well, which is very, very exciting. And the ambition really is to make sure that across the world and in Africa, that we're driving economic diversification, and we're ensuring that there's great transformation that is happening across the continent, ensuring we're not leaving people behind. So the free trade really, area is a fundamental shift for Africa as a whole. But we are, have some challenges. I think these challenges as well can be addressed by, again, technologies, as I'll address as we move on. But the issue around things like, affordable, and accessible internet connections and broadband is a critical area for the continent, especially if we are to leverage the opportunities that emerging technologies bring. We have to look at, sorting out the problems around the infrastructure, both soft and hard infrastructure. We have to look at investment opportunities, especially investment into innovative technology, investment into skills, and skills building around emerging technology is very critical for Africa. Then again, also, I think Madam Said picked up on this a little bit, very more clear regulation and regulation clarity, especially in the areas of technology and new areas of emerging technology like cybersecurity, blockchain, artificial intelligence. What are the policy frameworks in place? What are the rules around data and the usage of data, the sharing of data? Very, very important. And these are some of the challenges I think we need to look a little bit more closely. Then also significant is also the adoption rate of emerging technologies, I think will also matter. If we are to leverage the opportunities with these technologies, it's very important that we look at boosting adoption and boosting access to these emerging technology tools that can enable Africa to move and enable the delivery of the CFTA. Very, very important. Of course, we want to be able to tackle trade barriers and limit the barriers, to cross-border engagement, cross-border activity, which is very, very important for Africa's growth and for the world's growth. And then again, something that is very, very personal to me, and I'm very, very keen to see more liquidity flows across African markets and more access to strong, robust capital markets across the continent is very, very important. And ensuring that we can again build, what I'm calling the data capital for the continent. Data is absolutely everything, I think, as we move ahead. And data has been that solution, that answer that has helped the world to navigate the pandemic, to navigate COVID, with huge amounts of data sources, and with the usage of technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, even blockchain, we can start to shift and start to predict much earlier on, some of the challenges that might be coming before they actually arrive. So it's very, very important that we can look at data. And in Africa, again, we have to build data and ensure that we have access to, strong, well-managed data repository systems that we can tap on. Now, digital transformation. How we've seen digital transformation, how that fits in with the CFTA is really important. And digital transformation, I know people mostly think, immediately it's kind of linked to just technologies, but it actually goes beyond just the technology. It's very, very important to think about it as a holistic offering which includes, an ecosystem, organizations, industries, being able to digitalize, being able to take advantage of digitalization as a whole in order to impact, change management, but also to leverage opportunities so that they can create those economies of scale, so that they can introduce, new ways of working, new processes and new systems, and, more efficient ways of working, which is very, very important. And digitalization, or the creation of digital things, right, is typically, the kind of first stage that you take within the digital transformation journey. But through that journey, which is a journey, it's a journey you move from A to B, and it takes necessary steps that you have to take every time you move. And it's very, very important that obviously digitalization is playing a massive role, but within digitalization as a whole, also very important to think about the culture, what is needed to create a working environment that will open up opportunities for, for you to leverage technologies as a whole. So what's the story like in Africa? It's very, very exciting. You can see I'm smiling, I'm excited. I am, I'm very, very proud of what is happening on the continent. Like we've heard already earlier on, there's so much innovation already in Africa. Even pre-COVID, there was quite a lot of innovation in places like Kenya, in Rwanda, in Ghana, in South Africa, where we're seeing massive young people coming up with new innovations using, technologies like AI, 3D printing, activity that is starting to happen across the continent. Lots of applications are being developed, data applications are being developed on the continent to address some major challenges, that are being faced. It is really, really important, I think, when we think about digital innovation in Africa and how we want to move forward, we can take examples that we have across the continent. Even during COVID, for example, Rwanda saw an increase in the number of mobile money transactions, for example. In Rwanda, again, they were using drones to be able to ship medicines and food to get people because of the challenges with COVID. At the Global Policy House ourselves, we've been covering quite heavily, central bank digital currency and opportunities that digital currency presents. And what that looks like in the context of Africa. So are we going to look at shifting the future of money? Are we going to be looking at a digital currency and how we can maybe digitize access to money and digitize currency itself? What does that mean for the continent? Is that going to help with fueling activity with the CFTA? Governments of Ghana, Tanzania, Rwanda have all embraced digital innovation, using drones, as I mentioned, and also countries like Kenya, of course, are very well known for the activities that they have with things like M-Pesa, for money movements, and also closing that digital divide that exists across the communities in Africa is also quite good to see. There's a massive opportunities, I think, for Korea and Africa to start engaging at the startup and entrepreneurship level, especially when you think about things like fintech, because you can share exciting, new innovations and new technologies that the young people are working across the continent. And another exciting thing as well is also the emergence of lots of more women getting involved into the fintech ecosystem, and they're doing a lot of stuff around creating products around insurance, products around, digital financing, digital banking, which is very, very exciting. We need to see more women take part and more women to be creators of these digital solutions, in order for them to actually benefit as well. There's still a big divide between, women interacting within the STEM field, within the digital innovation space, and we would like to encourage a lot more women to participate. And this comes with obviously the need to have a wider education program and digital skills program that is also specifically gender focused. So mainstreaming gender and making sure that women are also taking part is absolutely fundamental for Africa's future as well. But in terms of digital transformation, so the Global Policy House has really put together a little, overview in terms of looking at the really critical areas that we need to focus on across the continent, but also when we are working across borders with our partners, including Korea, and how we can have more sustainable development and growth on the continent. And these are just some of the areas that we need to focus on. Obviously, the digital transformation is already happening, has been happening for some time, but we must tap on that absolutely now. We must work together. Collaboration is absolutely fundamental if we are all to achieve that we all want to achieve, including our relationships and our goals to deliver that digital strategy that was talked about across the continent. We need partners, we need to work in collaboration, and we need to ensure we have the right levels of investment. Investment is very, very important. If we don't have the right investments, or those investments that we do get are not being channeled in the right places, then we're going to struggle in terms of delivery of even the CFTA. So it's very, very important that we anchor all this. And at the end of the day, it's also about people. Technology is an enabler. Technology is there to help, to facilitate, to achieve, to get to a certain point. But at the heart of it is important to invest in the human capital, in the human skills, and provide that education and skills development in order for us to deliver what we want to deliver. And the culture within digital transformation, within a very strong digital transformation framework, it is very important to also have considerations around culture and how we approach culture. We need to have a shifting mindset where we're starting to look at the future with a more sustainable angle, with more, analysis around the issues of climate and green development, and ensuring that we're really looking at it from a more sustainable angle, where we can encourage people and create economies of tomorrow that are strong and viable as well, is very important. And this all really is the formula that we can utilize to boost the CFTA and to encourage growth across the continent. The tools within the digital transformation frameworks would include emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, and the cyber security that is required to protect and cyber-proof systems are also very important, but it also goes beyond, and we need to look at it more holistically as presented here. At the Global Policy House, again, we've come up with our own, sort of framework around the sustainable and circular economy perceptions that we have. It's very, very important, I think, as economies move ahead from the COVID crisis, from the pandemic, and we start to think about building back much better, creating joint collaborations and working together to create more sustainable economies. And we have tapped on technologies like blockchain as presented here, and really tried to evaluate through our research and through our engagement with different stakeholders around the world to establish actually what are the roles that blockchain can actually play, for example. Many people struggle to understand blockchain. Most people think blockchain is Bitcoin, it's cryptocurrency. Actually, it goes way beyond cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is probably only the first use cases of the technology. The underlying technology itself has massive potential around, transforming sustainable cities and creating sustainable cities, where we're starting to allow more, sustainable resource management and resource mobilization, which is very important, again, for Africa's future. We're talking about things like more adequate agricultural and land usages, tapping on innovations like artificial intelligence and machine learning to build farming applications that can help better predictions around farming is very, very key. Allowing for that smart recycling, dealing with financial inclusion that we've heard about, ensuring more people get access to capital and access to liquidity is very important. And all these technologies can play that role to actually ensure a more faster way, a more efficient way, a more cost-effective way for people to be able to access loans, for them to create credit history for themselves, for women to participate and be able to access finance. Women particularly struggle to access financing that they need to be able to run their business. And at Global Policy House, again, we're very, very keen to tackle that. And we have built applications that we want to be able to deploy to women so that they can find financing and also find educational material and tools that they can use to understand this space. So how do we go about, tapping innovation to build Africa's future? And these are just some of the areas that we think are really critical to focus on. And these are some of the recommendations that we would give to the African Union and to others to really focus quite heavily around these areas, including, ensuring that soft and hard infrastructure so that Africa can be connected. Be more young Africans and more young African women can also have access to data and have access to connectivity. And we close the digital divide. We start to close the digital divide which exists by providing the right infrastructure in place. Investments, again, I've covered already. Regulation, I've covered. Intellectual property and access to ownership is absolutely important. Again, technology will play a role, to facilitate that. Blockchain can help with things like land rights, access to use tax collection for governments, ensuring that ownership rights belong to the right owners of property, land, value, digital assets that we're starting to see. Very, very important that we can focus on that. And of course, at the end of the day, these are new areas. We're seeing new emerging technologies coming to the market really fast. We have to keep up with, considering what regulations are appropriate. We don't want to stifle innovation. We don't want to stop innovation. We want to make sure there is the balanced regulation in place to protect consumers, but also at the same time, we don't want to, put off innovators and get innovators to move from A to B. And lose that capital that we would have been able to untap from innovators because of stringent regulations, that are done out of spread. Cybersecurity, again, has been covered quite heavily. Data has been covered, but also very, very important, and almost to everybody's concerns, regardless of where you are in Korea, in Japan, in London, in South Africa, in Kenya, wherever you are. At the heart of it, all of us as individuals care about privacy. We care about our data and how our data is being used. So again, technology can play a very core role to actually start to move away from, me being able to own my data, me being able to monetize my data. And I know where my data is being used and how it's being used and by who is very, very important. So the issue around privacy within a digital economy is quite important, and how we tackle that and ensure that there's a degree of privacy that people maintain. Even in this world of exciting digital innovations. And so how does it, CFTA and really kind of putting everything together, what does it all mean? The Continental Free Trade Area, digital transformation, innovation, what does all this mean? I think, putting it simply, this means growth, this means opportunity, this means resilience building, this means Africa moving forward, this means Korea moving forward, this means collaboration across nations. It's an opportunity to actually tap on innovation, to tap on technology, to tackle things like, non-tariff barriers around trade, encourage more trade, more digital trade, digitizing documentations and paperwork so we can have faster trade, for example, utilizing blockchain, utilizing DLT, distributed ledger technology systems to create data systems in place that we can use to tackle things. Also, opening up opportunity for better transparency across systems is very, very important. Even with governments around the world, it's very important that we move towards a world where there's a bit more transparent. We can see more transparency, we can create more trust. Those two words are what really defines blockchain, for example. Trust, transparency, the opportunity for auditability, the opportunity to look back into a technology or a ledger-based technology, which shows every transaction and action that's happening across the value chain is very, very valuable. And then to the consumer and the user and the individual, they want to be more reassured that what you are telling us is actually trustworthy. If you're saying to us, the food that you've bought from A, B, C, D comes from a farm in Kenya, here are the health benefits of it. How do I know that that's true? How can I trust that that's true? Blockchain and other technologies can help with, providing that provenance of where that food is coming from and what it all means. But also it opens up an opportunity for small business. I am a big champion of small business. As an ambassador for the small business, for the World Union of Small Businesses, I'm very, very keen to see more small businesses be better supported, and technologies like, applications are being developed today, even access to decentralized finance is going to help small businesses be able to get the resourcing and the support that they need. And Africa is made up of 80%, 70% of our small businesses, right? And they are really the engines of growth behind the economies in Africa. So we need to invest in small businesses. We need to make sure that they have the right support around that. Again, blockchain, as I've highlighted here, plays a critical role and enables activity to happen cross-border between different countries. For small businesses, it makes processes much more efficient, more cost-effective, because they don't have huge budgets in place, for example, to manage as compared to corporates and big organizations. Cybersecurity, again, a very, very core area. And I know the African Union is very involved in this. And then also considering other aspects of digitalization and digitization, for example, data interoperability is very important. How do we ensure that we can share data in a secure and safe manner without compromising privacy? Is very, very important. How do we develop human capital and human resources so they can use these technologies? So, for example, at Global Policy House, we're helping to skill up people, young women, to be able to understand what is blockchain, what is AI, what is machine learning, what can I do with it? Can I do anything with it, or can I use the tools that come out of it, or can I build a tool? Using these emerging technologies, very, very important. And I think is the way forward. And finally, just to wrap up, we've highlighted here, almost summarized everything I have been covering so far into one PowerPoint, where you can see here these technologies all will play a critical role. It's not really about one technology. You will hear a lot of comments around artificial intelligence, you hear comments around blockchain, but I think the power, in terms of scalable innovation and building those economies of tomorrow, is really taking advantage of the convergence of some of these technology and bringing them together, right? Infusing technology.
Yes, and Michelle, could you finish it within 2 minutes because we have a very limited time?
No problem. So
yes.
I've got one more slide coming.
Yes.
Yes, this really sums it, and I won't go into detail of it, but we're saying basically all the technologies, you put them together, you're able to get value out of it. And finally, my final slide, this is, if you please feel free to connect with me should you have any further questions. We cover a number of things apart from the digital economy. We're also supporting businesses access finance and capital through our investment arm. And then we're also influencing and advising government, including the African Union and other governments around the world, government of Bermuda and other governments around the world on central bank digital currencies and central banks around our policy work as well, apart from the digital economy. But all my details is here. It's been a real honor. Thank you very much for having me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think what you presented is a really well covered, very insightful information, which is very useful to understand how important the digital innovation will be for the Africa continental free trade area. We have two discussants, one from Jungwang University and then another person from KISTI. We are going to give her maybe 8 minutes each, and we'll have some feedback from Michelle, and then we'll have a say open discussion later on. So shall I give the floor to Professor Kwon Hyuk-in? Are you with me? Yeah, the floor is yours.
네,
8 minutes, please.
Thank you for the presentation of Michelle Chibunga. Digital innovation and the potential of Africa was well represented. Very innovative opportunities are lying ahead of Africa. I agree with that. And digital transformational connection, cooperation, investment, and cultural resources usage were also represented. So I agree with her too. But there is lack of investment, and there is a long way to go in terms of technology development. About 2.5 billion people of Africa, they will be given opportunities of further developments. I'm on the same page. Up until now, humanity went through agricultural and industrial innovation, and also moved towards the service industry. And advanced countries were developed. They developed very gradually, but at the moment, the humanity need technology and have enough technologies in human to develop some certain area. But important is that there should be some market, and also we have to some willingness to revitalize market, and it requires some procedures. Africa is very potential in terms of market. If we have some procedures and willingness, then we could help Africa advance into the service industry very fast. In the past, education system was lacking in developing countries. That was pointed out as challenges. And all of this is able to be overcame with technologies. Those changes could be adopted easily, and smartphone and smart system is adopted. The most important thing is demand. The next important thing is production, human resources, and most of them can be addressed with investment. As Chibunga mentioned, Africa has high demand in agriculture education. So what we need is to find out some solutions. One of the solutions is that we have to get away from the existing industrial thought. We need to move towards the kind of service industry. It means that we need to acquire capital first, and then we need to acquire resources. In industrial era, it requires new technologies. But in the perspective of service, the demand of consumer needs to be figured out, and the products needs to be designed based on that demand and acquire technologies for making it, and it needs to be invested by joint partners.
So I call this eco-science. It is composed of ecosystem, platform, service, and strategies. These elements need to be considered and apply scientific methodologies. Here, the platform includes what was previously mentioned, like fintech, AI, big data, and blockchain. Most of the blockchain technologies will be included as platform. And as for ecosystem, we can use the existing ecosystem. If we don't have the existing ecosystem, we can create a new one. For economic development of Africa, they will need such eco-science strategies. As for the agriculture industry in Africa, they had many challenges so far, but with the application of digital technology, the agricultural sector could achieve great growth. So they need to redesign the agricultural society or sector based on digital technology, and it will not be as costly as you may think. Most of the facilities can be reused, but in order to achieve integration, you need to make a sophisticated digital platform. As an example, in the case of Korea, invested about 1 trillion won in overseas agricultural sector. Although it may get better as time goes by, but the reason for failure is that they approached agricultural sector from production perspectives. Agriculture industry is not just about production, but about technology, educational environment, and cooperation ecosystem in the local community. And agricultural sector has a lot of features of service industry. Agricultural product production is different from manufacturing factories. Agricultural products require a lot of efforts by people. So if people do not understand these things, then they may face failure in agriculture industry development. In order to solve high cost issues, they may use digital technology to develop integrated platform. And for a company to make their ways to the overseas market, they need to establish a platform in the local country, but there have been no such companies so far in Korea. In conclusion, digital technology is surely bringing innovation to Africa. For Africa to seize the opportunity, they don't need to think that they're moving from agricultural through manufacturing to service industry. But in Korea, we were successful in manufacturing industry, but it's difficult for Korea to maintain the existing manufacturing industry without any value-added approaches. So we need to change our views and approach to the agricultural industry. We need to look at agricultural industry from service perspectives. This is possible because we have digital technology. We can use digital technology and design a new service-oriented agricultural sector. Then it will enable you to develop the African community with a lower cost and at higher speed. Thank you.
Yeah, nice suggestion. He mentioned about the eco-science, which is a very symbolic in a sense that maybe we have to look at the digital technology to other areas. Maybe I can give her another time to talk about more detail later. Maybe we can ask you, Mr. Yu Sung-hoon, to discuss about the presentation. Yes.
네, 감사합니다. 저는 지금
Thank you. I prepared some slides. And most of the participants during the session all agree that COVID-19 has brought about a lot of opportunities to many people. And by utilizing digital technology, we have the opportunity to achieve further growth in Africa. That's what we have discussed the most during the session. I agree with all those comments. Technology is developed through two things. First one is demand pool. There have been a lot of discussion about the demand pool. In this regard, COVID-19 served as the increasing demand for application of digital solutions. And I read an article related to digital disruption in Africa in the post-COVID era. And I felt that last January, we had a webinar with SIA, and I agree with most of the content. DLP, distributed ledger technology, is the symbol of blockchain. If blockchain-based trade is facilitated, then the African continents will have more opportunities. I agree with the environment, but what should we do to close the gap? There was a discussion at CNBC about this issue and how the African countries are going to reach consensus on their plan in the mid to long-term perspectives. And in the Korean African Foundation, I was asked to write an article about how we can promote cooperation between Africa and Korea. And regarding the cooperation between Korea and Africa, we could take a little bit different approach. As you may know very well, this time Korea has been successfully responding to COVID-19. We call that secret 3T: tracing, tracking, and treatment. In terms of these three aspects, Korea has strength. And this is because Korea was able to utilize the ICT capabilities. And how can Korea share such capabilities with Africa? This is the current status of Africa, which was already explained sufficiently by the previous presenter. African market has great potential and it is growing fastly. And the number of population that are expected to use the technology is over 600 million people. And the data transaction amount will also increase further. As Michelle Chibunga mentioned, the data usage will also grow greatly in Africa. Considering these situations, how are African countries and Korea cooperate with each other? I think that we may have bilateral cooperation, but we need to think more about the specific type of cooperation between Korea and Africa. Depending on the characteristics of the region, we can classify the African regions into these sub-regions. So they have all different level of development. So I have 3 indicators regarding the level of development. So I had these 3 evaluation indicators and analyzed the relevant data through cluster analysis. Under the cluster analysis, we group countries that have similar characteristics with each other. This is the result. Group A, B, C, D, E. My slide is so small, so it may be inconvenient for you to read them. So I'll briefly explain about them. As for Group A, they belong to Central Africa, pretty low level of development. Group B has significant ICT capabilities and higher level of economic development. Like at the north part, and it's kind of spread. Group D, the nation in Group D was have very advanced technologies. And considering this Group D, we need to focus on cooperative strategies. And we have to do some strategies depending on their regions. And there are some variables, GDP and GNI and HDI, and infrastructure is related to wireline and mobile penetration rate per household. And there is very big gap, like even 20 times differences in some part. So drawing some cooperative cooperation, and it could be meaningful for market, but it is likely to fail. So we need to take another and different approaches. So for Group A and B, they have low social economic demand. So we have to focus on the data this delivery, and we have to set some basis for delivering information for Group A and B. And for Group C, it is in the kind of middle status, and it has a little bit developed environment for ICT. So education is important in this group. So we have to focus on education and cooperation. Group D and E, they have a little bit advanced technologies. So we have to see some potential, and we could take some market approaches in these groups. That is the reasonable way of thinking for cooperation with African countries. And as other people concentrated, if we do not understand African context, if we cannot achieve anything. And what is required for the next? Investment is needed. Rather than just cooperation, investment need to be made to make development. In African context, investment need to be occurring, and also it should promote development. That is end of my discussion.
I think it is very interesting to see what he did, quantitative analysis, how we could approach the African continent and even try to elaborate our cooperation. We heard 2 discussions. I think it is quite reasonable if we ask Michelle to share her views on 2 discussions comments. Michelle, are you with us now?
I am.
Yeah. Maybe I can give you maybe 3 minutes or so.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you to the discussant for the feedback. I think 100% agree, really love the segmentation of the different levels of development for the countries, and that makes a very reasonable approach in terms of looking at how do we support the engagement, you know, the bilateral engagement, but also looking at it on an almost kind of sub-regional level is very important, and at the development level is very important because each country in Africa is actually very uniquely different and is at a very different development stage. So very, very important to understand that. And also love the comments around the education and the need for investment. That is absolutely critical if we are actually going to be able to make some transformational changes. It is also important, I think, as highlighted by colleagues, that, you know, in order for us to actually see some measurable impact, that it is important that we invest into the digital skills building, but also in the platform economy. So this was referenced at the first discussion, to, you know, who mentioned the importance of platforms and the importance of creating internal platforms. So we are in the what I call a platform in the token economy, actually. So if we're able, and 100% agree, I think we're able to encourage the development of a local platform scenario, I think would be very beneficial for Africa in terms of even leveraging the technologies. The very strong recommendations, which I know we'll take back to the African Union around the collaboration, you know, be it at a bilateral level, is important that I would actually recommend that we, beyond this conference, that we put in place a very clear roadmap for cooperation and collaboration in this area, especially around how you leverage technology and what that looks like, building up on what has the quantitative research that's been done there around how to approach the relationship, you know, between Korea and Africa. And then also that will help to also signal, you know, what sort of investments are required and at what levels. We are also quite keen at Global Policy House to work with everybody to bring in an Africa-wide skills development program, especially around emerging technologies, and within that also ensuring that we have the gender elements covered and the women element covered as well. So 100% really agree, and I thank the discussants for their feedback, very strong feedback.
All right, thank you very much. I think we can spend hours to discuss about it. Yeah, before we close, actually, we have about 7 minutes to go. What I do is maybe I can ask the floor to have a very short comments from Your Excellency from Nigeria, yes? Or, oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Do you have a microphone? Yeah.
Good evening, Your Excellencies. So to make it short, I'll just say 2 things. As mentioned by Michelle and the discussants, the next stage of cooperation between Korea and Africa, I think, is that of investment, because what is happening at the moment is trade. And the trade is very well unbalanced because it is from Korea to Africa. And Africa doesn't seem to benefit much.
Why don't you see the camera?
So anyway, so I say it again. We need to see the economic relationship of Korea-Africa to move from trade to investment, because Korea needs to invest in Africa. Right now, what they're doing is they're trading into Africa. There are a lot of Korean products in Africa. There are a lot of Korean contractors in Africa. And we need to see the next stage. Now, on the political side, there's a need for more access and connections between Africa and Korea, especially for the African envoys that are in Korea. It is a known fact that we have no access and we have no connections to be able to articulate and discuss with the government directly what our country's really need. We take Korea as a very, very important partner for the development of Africa. And thanks to Ambassador Leo, we're talking to the Korean Africa Foundation, but a lot needs to be done more between the connection and communication between and access for the African envoys to the government of Korea, and also the presence of Korean government to be seeing the Korean president going to Africa and visiting Africa will galvanize a lot of relationship in Africa. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Ambassador from Egypt, he is also very eager to say, if we do not give him time, then he cannot go back to Seoul. So I think it is better to give him maybe 1.5 minutes, please.
Less than 1.5 minutes. I want to thank Pastor Leo. It was a great session. I think building on what my Nigerian colleague said, I think whatever its investment is trade, I think we can engineer any financial package, but I think the most important thing is getting Korea engaged with Africa.
All right.
I like so much the classification of the countries and the segmentation. It's a very important first step to deal and engage. And I wanted to ask for your paper, please, if we can share
Please
it.
see the...
Yes. I don't know if Mr. Yu's paper, we can share it either on the website of the forum or anything, because I think it's a very important starting step in building the strategy about Korea being involved with Africa. And I really appreciate, Mr. Leo, if you can continue on that and we start to build some concrete recommendations starting from there. But as Ms. Michelle said, I liked so much this classification was very important because we should take needs of all different situations and how to deal with different in the development, and to also close the digital divide, you need to address all these segmentations. So thank you for a brilliant session, and we look forward for more deepening of Korea's involvement, in particular as a country at the edge of modern technology in digitalization, to benefit Africa and to benefit Korea as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I also want to mention that Her Excellency from Rwanda, she has been here from the beginning, and she has been capturing many words, I think. Before we finalize the session, I think we can give the floor to the Ambassador here. Okay, yeah, Her Excellency is also have some word to say.
I don't know if the camera is seeing me, but anyways, thank you. I think I'm remaining with 30 seconds. I saw my colleague with 3 minutes, 1.3, so I guess
maybe I can give you.
So I'll just say thank you. I think my colleagues said everything that has to be said, and like they said, it's interesting if we could have the paper. And I thank you so much, Ambassador Leo, for this step. And I heard it's the first time that this session on Africa happens in Jeju. And I think it's already a big symbolic step. And we look forward to this continuing. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, yeah. I think Ambassador Yer is going to give the final closing remark.
Thank you very much for your participation. And today's forum was very, very brief, but the discussions was very intense. And there are a lot of things that we have to do. And also we will have another session for the similar themes for the cooperation between Korea and African Union, African countries. And especially, I thank all my colleagues from the African countries, the Ambassador Magashi and Fami and the Ambassador Swet. Even you are very busy, but you can be present here for this forum. I really appreciate your attendance of today's event, and see you in Seoul again. And we have more discussions in Seoul. Thank you, everybody, for attending this forum. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you believe it or not? The stopwatch says we have 30 seconds left. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you will have a wonderful weekend. It is a Friday today, and then I appreciate about all the participants as well as the keynote speaker as well as discussant. Thank you very much. Bye bye. We hope that we will see again in the near future.